what does it? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching No Time to Die. No Time to Die is the fifth and final 007 James Bond film in which Daniel Craig plays the man himself. Seemingly a recurring theme we pick up with James Bond in a state where he's trying to settle down, get out of the game, retire. But then a criminal mastermind manifests himself, threatens the world, drags him back into the fray for one final ride. Some people look for excuses to suit up, other people are like me that are waiting for this damn tie to stop choking me. Full disclosure, I've never really been the biggest James Bond fanatic. Like, they're good, I appreciate them, I enjoy them, but I kind of look at them like the same way I look at Tarantino films or Star Wars. I never dread watching them, I always enjoy them to at least some degree, and I appreciate them for what they are. But honestly, the thing that I enjoy more than the films themselves, generally speaking, is the pop culture relevance. Like, these films by name alone carry a lot of weight. By name alone, people will flock to the theaters to see this. I like that kind of thing, like everyone's going. It's almost like a doctor's appointment, like everyone's scheduling their time to get their fix, and then they can get together with their buddies and talk about the doctor appointment. And some people, I guess, will set up cameras and talk about their diagnosis. Man, this analogy's collapsing on itself. But the fact of the matter is, these movies just aren't really my cup of tea. I don't really like the spy espionage genre, and the Bond franchise is kind of the pioneer of sorts. I have not seen every James Bond film, but from the ones I have seen, they all kind of follow the same mold and format, and therefore kind of get a little redundant and predictable. That was until Daniel Craig's run began in 2006 with Casino Royale, a more grounded interpretation of the character that blew everyone away. Casino Royale is easily my favorite Bond film. The other three that followed are pretty hit and miss. Skyfall was good, Spectre and Quantum of Solace, not so much. But even in the not so great entries, I've still always enjoyed Daniel's interpretation of the character. I mean, damn, it's been 15 years that he's been playing this, I assume to be very physically challenging character. That's half my life. That's insanity. That's gotta be exhausting. Tom Cruise can hop around on couches and scream at crew members for 50 years all he wants. That's him. But us human beings, we get tired. And the pros start with the acting performances, headlined by Daniel Craig once again. His Bond portrayal just feels so much more grounded and real than other portrayals of the character. He gets angry, he gets jealous, he has heart, he takes things personally. He brings a degree of relatability to a character that's borderline a superhero. He makes him out to be kind of a normal, ordinary person in an extraordinary situation. And like most normal, ordinary people, he has friends that are played by a very great supporting cast. Naomi Harris, Ben Whishaw, Ralph Fiennes, all of them return from MI6 and they are continually great. Jeffrey Wright, Rory Kinnear, Layla Seydoux, I think I'm saying that right, I'm not French, but they all return, and they are also awesome. Lashana Lynch, who portrays the newly appointed 007 agent, did great despite all of that silly controversy that circulated around the character when it was announced. I thought she did a great job. They utilized this character in a very effective way within the scope of this story. Ana de Armas, who's not in the film very long at all, in fact incredibly abbreviated, but leaves quite an impact, a very memorable sequence. Would have loved to have seen her stick around, but hey, left us wanting more. Similarly, Rami Malek, who plays the antagonist, who did an awesome job for what he was given to do. It's kind of like Christoph Waltz in the last Bond film, Spectre. Him and Rami Malek, I feel like both of their aura, their essence, kind of just screams to play a very eccentric Bond villain. And he does a great job with what he is given. He has a couple great monologues here and there, but at the end of the day, he doesn't really have much of an opportunity to shine like Mads Mikkelsen and Javier Bardem did in Casino Royale and Skyfall. That's definitely more of a knock on the writing than their performances. We'll get to that later. But I thought that Rami Malek and, well, Christoph Waltz in this film, I thought both of them did a good job with the things they were given. Neither one floored me or anything, which is kind of a disappointment given the upside that I imagined for both of them in these roles. But at the end of the day, it was a lot closer to good than it was to bad. What was also good was the sprinkle of humor. Despite the fact that it had a lot of heavy, heartfelt moments, it also had a few laughs to contrast. Honestly, I think I laughed and chuckled at this Bond film more than I have with any other previous Daniel Craig entries. The one-liners were flying, witty dialogue, perfect comedic timing. I mean, I wouldn't say that this movie is a comedy by any stretch. I would not describe it at all. But it used comedy in a very charming, appropriate way. It takes a truly great director to know that balance, to achieve that balance of comedy, drama, action, all of that. And that is 100% what we have here. Fantastic direction. Totally gonna f this up, but we'll try. Cary Joji Fukunaga. I am completely unfamiliar with his work, especially his directorial work. I have not watched True Detective, but I heard it was great. But going from Sam Mendes, who directed the last two films, a director that I really appreciate, to someone that I am unfamiliar with, I don't know, I was a little worried. But those worries were quickly alleviated because this film is helmed masterfully from top to bottom. The cinematography is on point, some very intricate camera movements and riveting compositions. Fantastic use of color and light. The tones in this film are so deep and full. Some terrific moments in editing, especially some very seamless creative scene transitions. Bond movies are never slouches behind the camera, ever. But that being said, I don't ever remember being as impressed with the craftsmanship on display like I was in this film. Outside of the opening sequence in Spectre, which is of course immaculate, but outside of that movie drops off pretty quickly. This movie stayed pretty consistent on the up and up. Another franchise common occurrence came back to play, and that's some amazing scenery, locations, and set design. Bond movies are always transporting us to all these brilliant places across the world, and this movie is no exception. Norway, Italy, Jamaica. I mean, this movie feels like a Travel Network exclusive, or a nice car commercial with a nice, expensive car driving through the mountains in a sweeping wide landscape shot. And if it's not a matter of scenery or landscapes, they create some very visually appetizing fabrications on set. Huge labs with a plethora of computer screens, deep tunnels illuminated by vibrant tubes of light, lavish clubs, beautiful gardens. This film just takes you to all the places you wish you could go, minus the gunfire. On that note, the action in this film definitely holds up, as expected. There are a handful of awesome, jaw-dropping action sequences, a great firefight that happens in a foggy forest, an awesome oneer that takes place in a stairwell, the old and new 007s competing with each other during a firefight like freaking Gimli and Legolas in Lord of the Rings. There are so many action movies out there that throw so much action at you, but none of it really stands out, whereas this movie throws a lot of action at you, all of which stand out. So many sequences that you could turn to someone and be like, hey, remember when this happened? Or that was awesome when this happened? Aiding in this memorable effort was an awesome on-point soundtrack. From Hans Zimmer's score, which always felt like it had the right mood to convey the tone of the scene, whether intense or light, heavy or sad, to Billie Eilish's theme song, which I completely forgot about. Like, they dropped that song last year before the pandemic, leading up to the release date before it got pushed back. They dropped the song and I loved it. I liked it so much that I continued to listen to the song independently, eventually disassociating it with this movie because it got pushed back so long. Then they start to roll the song in the movie. I'm like, huh, I recognize this. What is, oh yeah. That's right. Then it continues to roll into the signature opening title sequence, which always bends my mind with the effects and graphics they implement. Like, as much as I say that I don't enjoy Bond films, I must admit that there are some aspects, elements like that just hit me right where it feels good. However, the cons circulate mostly around all the things that hold the Bond franchise back for me personally. Let's start with the length. I believe this film is the longest James Bond film to date. 2 hours and 45 minutes is a long freaking movie. Very few movies with runtimes that long truly do enough to justify themselves. Do I think that there's a lot in this movie that could be good to cut out? No, not notably. I think that everything in this movie is there for good reason. That being said, movies with extended runtimes like that insanely hinder the replay value for me. The Lord of the Rings films, I love them all, but hot damn, 3 hours is a long freaking movie. I don't have that kind of time to just throw around willy-nilly. Same goes with Midsummer, a movie that I've only watched once. I always want to watch it again. I look at it on, I think, Amazon Prime, it's on there. I'll scroll past and be like, 2.5 hours. Not tonight. It is a tough thing for me to get past. I mean, you have to really bring it as a movie to get me to sit down and sign up for that once again. Casino Royale and Skyfall, both of those are longer movies like this, but I've watched them multiple times. The other two Bond films, also long, only watched them once in theater. Wonder why? I think this installment kind of falls in the purgatory between these two extremes. Like, I definitely don't think it's bad enough to never watch it again. That being said, I'm not chopping at the bit to do it again. Granted, I guess I just watched it yesterday, but you get what I'm saying. I think a lot of that boils down to the spy espionage complex. A lot of moving parts, lots of talking, lots of things happening all around the world, lots of relationships and characters to keep track of. Like I said before, they're just not my cup of tea. Definitely not something I like to sit down and watch casually. I'm obviously not the type to really relax while watching movies, especially if I'm trying to watch it with the intent of reviewing the film. But with that being said, a movie pushing 3 hours, that's a long time for me to zero in and focus trying to keep a bunch of shit straight. Finally, as I kinda mentioned before, I wasn't the biggest fan of the villainous agenda here. I thought Rami Malek did a good job as being sort of the head of this mission, his big goal, but the goal itself just didn't really do a lot for me. I thought it was a little cliche. It was typical standard bad guy motives. It wasn't like Le Chiffre in Casino Royale where you understood his motives. Or Javier Bardem's character in Skyfall where they gave him enough, made him interesting enough to carry himself despite the basic ass evil agenda. It all felt just kinda standard by the book, and the tech that they were using to carry out this mission was just bonkers, just way ridiculous. It's not uncommon for Bond villains to have outlandish tech, insanely powerful weaponry, but this was ridiculous. This was like God mode cheat code stuff. I think there is a certain line of plausibility that even Bond films shouldn't cross. Like, I could even buy the magnet parachute thing that they used earlier on in this film. That was bonkers, but I could still buy it. But the big bad guy tech that is highlighted in this film, always referenced and always utilized, it was just too much for me. All in all, despite the fact I am not the biggest James Bond fan in the world, I thought this was a very well-crafted film. That was a perfect send-off swan song for Daniel Craig's 15-year legendary run in the character. I'm going to give No Time to Die a B+. But that is just me. What do you guys think? Tell me if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date. New reviews come real soon. Stay safe, thanks for checking in.